Okay, so this lesson we're going to do multiplying and dividing fractions. Last lesson we did addition and subtraction of fractions, and let's have a look at how do we multiply and how do we divide fractions. All right, so the first thing you need to understand here is fractions do not need to have the same denominator to multiply together. This is like very different to addition and subtraction. So the first key point is fractions can be multiplied or divided regardless of the denominators. So do not, very important, fraction do not need to have the same denominator. To be multiplied or divided together. So that means you can actually multiply two fractions regardless what is the denominator. So, for example, if you have like 2 over, instead of 2 over 4, but let's just do 2 over 5, and you want to multiply this number by 4 over 7. Well, as you can see, the first fraction has a denominator equals to 5, and the second fraction has a denominator equals to 7. Previously, with addition and subtraction, what you need to do is obviously you have to change into the same denominator, and we call that the lowest common denominator. But now you don't have to, all right? So what we are going to do here is to multiply fractions. All we have to do is simply multiply the numerators together and we multiply the denominators together. So it's like, you multiply numerators and you multiply the denominators. Very simple, all right? You times by the top and you times by the bottom part. All right? So in a simple form, to multiply, fractions, in a simple form, it's just going to be like a over b multiplied by c over d, and that will be a times by c over b times by d. All right, so that's pretty easy. So for the previous example here, the answer will be just 2 times by 4, which is 8, and 5 times by 7, and that's 35. All right. Now, obviously, the question is not going to be that easy. Sometimes you do need to do a few more things before you can multiply the fractions. Like, for example, if the fraction is too big, you don't really want to multiply the numerators and denominators straight away, because what happens if the number is too large? So if possible, I would say most of the time, I would like you to simplify the fraction or cancel the fraction before multiplying, okay? This is very important. I want you to simplify, or sometimes people using the word, cancel the fractions before multiplying. This is a crucial step, because if you can simplify the fractions before multiplying, and you'll find it's going to be much easier to solve the question, all right? Now, how do we cancel the terms, all right? We can cancel fractions both vertically or diagonally, okay? We can't do it horizontally. This is very important. And I'll show you in a minute. So cancelling can be done, okay, either vertically, like, you have a one fraction and you want to simplify the fraction, or diagonally, and I will actually show you what does that mean. Please remember, you can't cancel the fraction horizontally. Never do that, okay? It's not allowed. And it's not really like a cancelling anything. You're not simplifying the fractions, okay? So never do horizontal way to cancel the fractions. All right, okay, so I'd like to show you an example here. What does that mean, okay? So, for example, if we have 4 over 8 multiplied by 1 over 3. Now, instead of we times the 4 to 1 and 8, to 3. Obviously, we can do that. Usually, the way I would do it is we sort of simplify the fractions first. So what I would do is look at a 4 over 8. We can do it vertically, all right? We can cancel the fraction vertically. So divide both the top and bottom number by 4, and we're going to get 1 over 2. Just by doing that, you can find it's much easier to do the calculation now. So now you can just simply times the numerators together and times by the denominators together, and that gives you 1 over 6, and that becomes the answer. All right, so we call this is the cancelling vertically. All right, now I just want to show you what happens if you don't cancel vertically, all right? It's just the same question, but what happens if we try to do it like just a normal method, and, what will be the problem? I guess for a question like this, if you just do it normally, you're still not going to make any mistake. It's still pretty easy. So you're going to get 4 over 24. As you can see, it's a larger number, and I really hope that you actually remember to simplify the fractions. So you're going to divide both the top and bottom by 4. So that gives you 1 over 6. Alright, so as you can see here, if you can cancel the fraction before you multiply, you're making the number much smaller, and it's just easier to simplify your answer. Alright, especially later, you're going to get some large numbers, so it will be better to do that. Alright, another example I would like to show you is where you can cancel your fractions diagonally. Alright, so let's just say, for example, you've got 5 over 12, and then you have 6 over... Alright, sorry, I had to do something before, and so let's just come back to this. Alright, so we have 5 over 12 times by 6 over 35. And how do we simplify this before we actually multiply the number? Because as you can see, 12 and 35 is just too big to multiply. Usually it's possibly it's hard to do it without a calculator. But how do we do it? All right, what we can do is we can cancel the fractions diagonally. So if you look at 5 and 35, we can divide both numbers by 5. So that gives you 1, that gives you 7. And then if you look at the other diagonal, you have 6 and 12. What you can do is you can cancel the 6 and 12. That becomes 1, and that becomes 2. So at the end, what you have left is you have 1 over 2 left for the first fraction, and you have 1 over 7 left for the second fraction. And then you can multiply the two fractions together, which is 1 over 14. So it's much, much easier to do it this way, okay? Other than, you times 12 and 35 together, and then you try to simplify your final answer. So we call this is the cancelling diagonally. Now, please remember this, okay? You can't do it, horizontally. This is really important. Right. What I'm going to show you next example here is what we can do is combine vertical and diagonal ways to cancel the terms, all right, to simplify the fractions first before we multiply. So let me just give you some large numbers. We'll have 18 over 30, and then times by 14 over 20, let's just, all right, not 20 something, all right, let's just do a 36. That's a nice number here. Okay, with a question like this, all right, what you can do is you can, again, think about it. You do have options. You have options to cancel these two first, all right, dividing by 2. Or you can do it here, divided by 2. But you need to find a better option, because it looks like these two can be cancelled quite a lot, right? So the better option is to cancel that first. So you have 1 and 2, because 2 times 18 is 36. And then once you finish that, then what you can do is you start to cancel your second fraction vertically. I'm just going to use a different color here so you can see it clearly. That 14 and 2, if you look at 14 and 2 here, that 14 and 2 can be simplified as well. So you can cancel this 14 and this 2, that'll be 7 and 1. So therefore, your resultant fraction is going to be 1 over 30 for the first fraction, and the second fraction is just going to be a whole number. It's 7 over 1, so the answer will be 7 over 30. So it's just a combination of you cancel the terms both vertically and diagonally. All right, and sometimes student will say I have a better way to do it. I want to cancel the terms vertically first, then diagonally. Yep, you can do that. There is no right or wrong, answers which steps you're going to do first, which step you're going to do later. It's up to you, and it also depends on the question. All right. The next example I would like to show you is what happens if we multiply by, a number that is not a fraction, it's just like a whole number, all right? So how do we multiply a whole number? All right, so we have a fraction, and then we want to multiply by a whole number here. What do we do in this case? Usually what we need to do here is, I have a shortcut, all right? The shortcut is you simply times the 5 to the 4, all right? But why? Why you times the 5 to the 4? All right, so the reason for that is because what you need to do, a whole number can be written as a fraction with a denominator of 1. So what you need to do is try to turn this number into a fraction. So that becomes 5 over 1. So it becomes a fraction. Once this becomes a fraction, then you can simply multiply the numbers. All right, so 4 times by 5 is 20, and then 7 times by 1 is equal to 7. And then if you want to change that into mixed numerals, you can change it. All right, so that's what you do. So please remember that a whole number can be written as a fraction with a denominator of 1. All right, next. So once we know how to multiply a fraction by a whole number, what about mixed numerals? What do we do if we we need to times a fraction by a mixed numeral, or if we need to times 2 mixed numerals? What do we do here? So if we have like a mixed numeral, for example, 2 and 2/3, and we need to times by 1 over 4. All right, with a question like this, a mixed numerals must be changed to improper fraction before multiplying. This is the rule, okay? It's really important. Please, you always need to change mixed numerals back to improper fraction before you multiply. Okay, very, very important. And that's a reason why I don't like to change the numbers or fractions into the mixed numerals, because it's almost like useless. Every single time if you do need to do some operations and calculations, you need to change the mixed numerals back into improper fraction. So, all right, so let's change this one back into the improper fraction. That gives you 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. And it will multiply by 1 over 4. All right, so hopefully you realize, okay, multiply by 1 over 4, and I can cancel the terms. Let me just change a different color. 1 over 4. Now, I can cancel the 8 and 4. So that'll be 1, and that will be 2, because 8 divided by 4 is 2, 4 divided by 4 is 1. So now your answer will be 2 times 5, so it'll be like 2 over 3 times by 1 over 1, which is just equal to 2 over 3. All right, that's how you do it. Okay, so the next one that you need to remember is final answer must be written in the simplest form. All right, this is really important. Any final number, final answers, it must be written in the simplest form. So if your final answer is like 8 over 16, where you didn't simplify it, then you're going to lose mark. So this is so important. I'd like everyone to remember this. All right, okay. Now I would like to move on to the division. And this lesson, I would like to do division combined with multiplication, because the idea, the strategies are very, very, very similar. For the division, you just need to know one extra thing, okay? And then you can just use the multiplication methods to divide fractions, because you know what? We never divide a fraction. We always multiply fractions, okay? So how do we divide fractions? All right, to find, what we need to do is we are going to find the reciprocal, okay? So I would like everyone to remember this. Dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. Right, this is really important. And what is a reciprocal? This is the critical part. What is a reciprocal, and how do we find the reciprocal? Now, reciprocal of a fraction is just you basically invert a fraction. So you just simply swapping between the numerators and denominators. So the reciprocal means like if you have like a over b, that's a fraction. So reciprocal of a over b is b over a. It's just that simple. So b goes to a, and a goes to a. A goes to the denominator, b becomes the numerator. So an example of that is if I want to find the reciprocal, all right, reciprocal. If I want to find the reciprocal of 2 over 3, then the answer will be simply, 3 over 2. Again, you just simply change the numbers. All right, so How do we multiply, or how do we divide fractions then? So dividing fraction, dividing by a number is the same as multiply by its reciprocal. So for example, if I have 4 over 5, I would like to divide this number by 1 over 4 over, not 4, okay, let's just use a different number, 2 over 7, okay, if that's the question. So the first step is you always need to remember we never do division, we change that division sign to multiplication sign, all right? So that's the first step, step 1. Change division. Oh, that's not how you spell division. All right, change the division sign to multiplication. All right, change that into multiplication sign. That's the first step. So you're going to write 4 over 5, but this time instead of divide, we're going to change that into multiplication. And then step 2, all right, step 2 is you are going to find the reciprocal find the reciprocal of the fraction after. Right, this is very important. It has to be the fraction after the division sign. All right, so that means what you need to do is you're going to swap between the denominators and numerators. So you're going to get 7 over 2 instead of 2 over 7. All right, so once you finish that, now what you can do is just normal, multiplication with fractions, which you just learned before. So that just means like you cancel the 2 and the 4, that becomes 2 here. So now you have 2 over 5 times by 7 over 1, which is equal to 14 over 5. Okay? All right, so that's what you do. And I'd like to do a few more examples. Another example would be like 12 over 20 divided by 4 over 5. Okay? Divided by 4 over 5. All right, so what do? First step, we are going to change that division sign to multiplication. And then we're going to swap the number for the fractions just after division sign. That becomes 5 over 4, 5 over 4. And then once we've finished that, all right, what we need to do is simplify the fraction. Simplify it first before you multiply. 12 and 4, you can divide everything by 4, so that becomes 3 and 1. And I'm using a different color. For 5 and 20, you can cancel 5 and 20 as well. So 5 and 20, that becomes 1, and here's 4. So now at the end, you have 3 over 4 times by 1 over 1, which is 3 over 4. Okay, which is 3 over 4. All right, that's another one. All right, let's just do one more. What happens if we need to divide mixed numerals? Okay, same idea. Mixed numerals, you need to divide mixed numerals. All right, before you do that, you need to change the mixed numerals into improper fraction. Very important. Let's try this one here first. So first step, we need to change the mixed numerals into improper fractions. That becomes 18 over 7. Still divides, and that's 3 over 2. Please change that into improper fraction before you find the reciprocal. All right, very important. So now this becomes a multiplication, and then that still equals to 18 over 7. And then you need to find the reciprocal of the number here. That becomes 2 over 3. All right, and then you start to simplify. Okay, cancel. So you've got 18 and 3. That becomes 1, and that's 6. You can't really do diagonally on the other side, so that's fine. So they give you 12 over 7. Okay, all right. That's all. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Just remember, multiplying and dividing fractions, they have almost the same idea. Just the dividing fractions, you need to make sure you change the division sign to multiplication sign, before you times it. Okay, and yeah. And also make sure that you actually simplify the fractions before you multiplying the fractions together. Just make it, it's easier for you to understand, to do the calculation. All right, thank you everyone.